Hollywood will never come out and say this directly, but a movie can gross nearly $600 million at the box office and still get written off as a financial disaster. That's not a hypothetical scenario or an edge case. It happened this year, and it's happening with more frequency because studios keep repeating the same miscalculations while acting blindsided by the results. Nearly every flop on this list had visible warning signs months before opening weekend, and in some cases, years before. These are 10 recent box office failures that anyone paying close attention could have predicted, and we're going to walk through exactly what went wrong with each one. Robert De Niro in a mob drama sounds like a safe bet on paper, and that instinct is understandable given his history with the genre. The Alto Knights carried a $45 million budget and pulled in just over $10 million worldwide, which put it well past disappointment territory and into outright failure. The reviews were decent enough, but decent reviews for a slow-burn crime drama aimed at older audiences carry almost no weight at the modern multiplex. That audience watches these films, but they watch them at home, on streaming, at their own pace on a Tuesday night. Releasing the Alto Knights wide and expecting theatrical returns was the core mistake, because the film itself was suited for a different format and a different audience experience than a Friday night opening. Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie are two of the more reliably watchable actors working right now, which made the opening weekend number genuinely jarring for a lot of people. $20 million against a $45 million budget, and the silence from the studio in the weeks before release should have been the first warning sign. Reportedly, the test screenings weren't encouraging, and when a studio goes quiet on marketing for a film starring two recognizable names, that quiet usually means they couldn't figure out how to sell it. And here's the thing, the genre problem was already there regardless of marketing. Romance as a theatrical draw has been eroding for years, and audiences who love these stories have largely decided they'd rather watch them at home. Farrell and Robbie couldn't reverse that trend, and nobody involved seemed to have a plan for how to work around it. Wes Anderson built a genuinely devoted audience over decades, and the Grand Budapest Hotel crossing $170 million back in 2014 suggested that audience was large enough to matter commercially. What came after told a different story. Asteroid City landed at around $25 million, and the Phoenician Scheme reportedly reached about $40 million against a $30 million budget, making it his weakest theatrical performance in nearly 20 years. The critical conversation around Anderson has shifted noticeably in recent years, with even longtime admirers raising questions about whether his style has calcified into something self-referential. Whether that criticism is fair probably depends on how much you've enjoyed his recent work, but the numbers suggest the broader audience has started tuning out. Auteur brands carry real value up to a point, and that ceiling has dropped considerably for Anderson's particular style of filmmaking. Pixar spent several years sending films directly to Disney Plus during and after the pandemic, and that decision trained a significant portion of their audience to expect new Pixar on streaming rather than in theaters. Elio was meant to reverse that, arriving with a full theatrical release and a budget reportedly sitting somewhere between $150 and $200 million. The worldwide gross came in at around $154 million, and when you factor in marketing costs alongside production, a film at that budget level needs something closer to $375 million just to reach break-even. The reviews were positive, the story was original, and none of that translated into the kind of urgency that sells tickets. Pixar's greatest theatrical runs came from films that felt like events people needed to see immediately, and Elio, by most accounts, felt like a good animated film rather than a necessary one, which at that budget is a meaningful distinction. Bong Joon-ho, winning Best Picture for Parasite in 2020, created an expectation that followed Mickey 17 from the moment it was announced, and that expectation turned out to be more burden than benefit. The film carried a $118 million budget, grossed around $133 million worldwide, and reportedly needed close to $300 million to break even, leaving a gap that no amount of critical goodwill could close. Several things were working against it before the cameras even rolled. The political undertones made the marketing tricky. The sci-fi premise was genuinely unusual in ways that resisted easy summarization in a trailer. And Parasite's success had a specific quality that couldn't be manufactured. Nobody saw it coming, and the lack of pressure was part of what made it work. Mickey 17 arrived carrying enormous expectations into a marketplace that required mass appeal, and the marketing never found a way to bridge the gap between the film's actual tone and what mainstream audiences needed to feel compelled to show up. Tron Legacy came out in 2010, made nearly $400 million globally, and left the franchise in a holding pattern that lasted 15 years. Tron Ares finally arrived with Jared Leto, a $220 million budget, mixed reviews, and a worldwide gross of around $142 million, well short of what a film at that cost requires to turn profitable. The audience that grew up with Legacy has aged into a demographic that shows up selectively for theatrical experiences, and 15 years of dormancy did nothing to build momentum or keep the property alive in the cultural conversation. Cult followings are real and valuable in the right context, but they don't scale to justify budgets above $200 million. The studio treated a niche property with a passionate but limited fan base as though it could perform like an active franchise with recent theatrical momentum, and the result reflected that miscalculation precisely. The John Wick franchise earned its place through 4 films of escalating quality and a very specific kind of audience loyalty built around Keanu Reeves. Spinning off into a new character-led film made commercial sense on the surface, and Ana de Armas is a capable action lead with real screen presence. Ballerina had a $90 million budget, grossed around $137 million worldwide, and fell short of the roughly $225 million it needed to reach profitability. Reports of significant reshoots circulated before release, and the trailers projected a tonal uncertainty that the John Wick films never had. But the deeper problem was something the marketing couldn't fix regardless of how well it was executed. Reeves built that franchise on a quality that other actors can't simply inherit. The goodwill attached to John Wick as a character is inseparable from the specific person playing him, and Ballerina was asking audiences to transfer that loyalty to someone new without giving them a compelling reason to make the leap. The Accountant 2 is the most complicated entry on this list because calling it a flop depends entirely on what metric you're measuring against. Theatrically, an $80 million budget against $103 million in box office gross looks marginal at best. But Amazon reportedly saw around 80 million streaming viewers on Prime Video within the first month of the film's streaming release, and that number reframes everything. What Amazon built wasn't primarily a theatrical movie. It was a promotional campaign for their streaming platform that happened to run in multiplexes first. The theater window functioned as marketing. The $103 million in ticket sales served as proof of concept and visibility, and the real payoff came on Prime. Whether spending $80 million to achieve that result was an efficient strategy is worth debating. But the traditional box office number on its own doesn't tell the actual story of what this film was designed to accomplish. Paul Thomas Anderson directing Leonardo DiCaprio represents about as much prestige as American filmmaking can generate, and the studio treated the budget accordingly. Warner Brothers reportedly needed around $435 million worldwide to break even on the film, and it earned about $203 million. Leaving a loss significant enough that trades covered it as one of the year's bigger financial disappointments, despite strong reviews and Golden Globe recognition. The audience that most wants to see a film like this has changed their behavior in ways that make theatrical profitability very difficult at that budget level. Viewers over 40 who care deeply about prestige adult dramas will see the film, but they'll see it when it arrives on streaming, when they can pause it, when they don't have to pay for parking. That patience is completely reasonable. and doesn't reflect any lack of enthusiasm for the film itself. The problem is that a studio spending blockbuster money on a film that attracts a patient audience is making bet the math doesn't support, and the math was visible before a single frame was shot. Tom Cruise spent months promoting this film on what amounted to a global press tour, and the dedication he brings to that process is genuinely unusual among working movie stars. The Final Reckoning opened strong, received strong reviews, and finished with a worldwide gross of $591 million, a number that would represent a clear success for almost any other film in existence, and still fell roughly $200 to $400 million short of what it reportedly needed to break, even on a $400 million budget. That gap between impressive and profitable is the sharpest illustration of where big studio filmmaking has ended up. Each mission, impossible entry cost more than the last to produce and market, and the franchise kept delivering quality that justified the audience's continued investment. None of that prevented the budget from outpacing what the global box office could reasonably return. Even with everything working in the film's favor, the star, the reviews, the franchise recognition, the promotion, when $591 million represents a financial shortfall, the question that nobody in the industry seems eager to answer publicly is what a sustainable version of this model actually looks like going forward. The flops covered here weren't all bad films. Several of them were genuinely well-made, well-reviewed, and well-intentioned projects that ran into structural problems no amount of quality could solve. Some cost too much for what they were. Some landed in the wrong format. Some carried franchise expectations that the actual product couldn't meet. But almost none of them were surprises. The warning signs were there for anyone who wanted to look. So the question worth putting to the comments: which of these do you think was the most avoidable? And was there one film on this list where you think a different set of decisions could have actually turned things around? Drop your answer below. Genuinely curious where people land on that. And if breakdowns like this are your thing, subscribing keeps more of them coming.